Hello and welcome to the Tuesday's edition of Political Voice. I am Somto Ajamma. As always, so much has happened and is happening in the political space in Nigeria, but we will focus on two significant topics across the polity today. We'll start with Sam Amadi blowing hot, disclosing that APC is not a curse, rather INEC is the curse, in his words. And then also Nigerians will vote Tinubu in 2027 despite economic hardship. And this one is also coming from an Apc Chieftain. We'll flesh these conversations more in just a moment. But before we get right into the stories, let's take a global overview of happenings around the world. In Africa, the running mate of the National Democratic Congress, NDC in Ghana, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyemang, has pledged that an NDC government will prioritize women's economic empowerment by establishing a women's development bank. This initiative aims to offer financial support specifically tailored to women entrepreneurs, particularly those in small and medium-sized enterprises with flexible loan terms. During her campaign tour in the Greater Accra region, Professor Opoku-Agyemang engaged with market women and traders, highlighting the NDC's commitment to addressing the economic challenges facing women. She urged Ghanaians to vote for the NDC in the upcoming general election, emphasizing that the party is dedicated to implementing policies that benefit all citizens, especially women. She criticized the current government handling of the economy and urged Ghanaian women to vote for the NDC in the December 7th general election, emphasizing that retaining the new patriotic party would worsen the economic situation. Today, the internal election must be held by the end of September, which marks the end of Kishida's 3-year term and will only include the party's parliamentarians and its 1.1 million due-paying members. The winner will be the head of the Liberal Democratic Party and the country's prime minister, as the party and its smaller coalition partner control Japan's two-chamber parliament. Last week, Kishida, who took office in October 2021, said he was bowing out of the race to pave way for a new leader to form a united LDP to make a fresh start to regain public trust, badly hurt by the party's extensive corruption scandal, causing his support ratings to dip below 20%. And in Nigeria, the federal government has disclosed that sales of crude oil to Dangote refinery and other refineries will commence October 1st, 2024. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, made the announcement during a meeting with the Implementation Committee today in Abuja. According to a post on the official X page of the Finance Ministry, the meeting was to review the progress on key initiatives. The post read that the meeting reviewed progress on key initiatives, including the upcoming commencement of Naira payments for crude oil sales to the Dangote refinery starting October 1st, 2024. It also stated that updates were provided on the Port Harcourt and Dangote refineries were also provided, with significant production increases expected from November 2024. At the meeting, key roles were outlined for stakeholders, including the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the African Export-Import Bank to ensure smooth implementation. The minister also emphasized the need for transparency and directed the technical subcommittee to finalize details and prepare a report for the president confirming that his directives are on track for implementation from September. We will now go on a short break, and when we return, we'll delve fully into today's focus. Stay with us. Welcome back to Political Voice. Joining us in the studio today is Mr. Tochukwu Ezekama, a political commentator. Good evening, Mr. Tochukwu. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And virtually, we also have Dr. Femi Ferguson, a social scientist, political activist, social political commentator, author, lecturer, and preacher of the gospel. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. Now let's talk about the subject of conversation. The director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, Sam Amadi, has said that the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, is not a curse to Nigeria. He argued that the APC cannot be referred to the problem in the country because it is not the regulator of elections. Amadi stated that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is the curse plaguing Nigeria, and that's quote and unquote. The former chief executive officer of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, was replying an ex-user who had monitored a review of the INEC compliance with electoral guidelines in the last election in Imo State. And according to him, neither Atiku nor Peter Obi are currently doing anything to change the structure and culture of election management. This program in question featured the ex-Minister of Aviation, Osita Chidoka, as a guest. Now, perhaps the most important factor here in what Sam Amadi has said is that INEC is the curse on Nigeria and not the APC. Basically, INEC is the problem and not the APC because it's not the APC that regulates elections, it's INEC. According to him, they're warming up for the elections and they're the ones who should be in compliance because they're the regulatory body. So I'll come to you first. I'll start with you, Mr. Tochukwu. What are your thoughts on what he has just said? Now, there are various aspects to take this from. The 2023 presidential elections created a lot of voter apathy across board from presidential elections, and that filtered down into the gubernatorial elections that have happened since then. People have lost faith in INEC as a body, either in federal elections or even in state elections as well. And now coming to the part where he's saying APC is not the problem, well, people are speculating that INEC had a huge role to play that brought APC into power in this particular administration because, of course, I'm sure you're aware of the speculations that INEC somehow sold the election or gave the election to the APC by way of rigging or electoral malpractice, if you please. So if INEC is not the problem, or if APC is not the problem, according to him, how is INEC the problem now when APC is already in power, given the events that happened before?
Well, if I understand his statement, if APC won the election, if the election was fair, free, and credible, and APC won, what is he talking about? A curse? So is he implying that APC did not win the election? Because if things went well and a certain political party was elected by the people, why are you talking about somebody being a curse or not being a curse?
I think his perspective for that would be the perspective in which Nigerians have of the APC right now because of the economic hardship and everything that has happened since they came into power. Then
the Nigeria is saying that APC is inefficient. APC is inefficient. APC is a profligate party, extravagant, irresponsible, anti-human, insensitive. But that's the party. If the election that brought this party into power, it was the legitimate choice of Nigerians, then Nigerians are getting what they want. So it's not a cause. So is he implying that the election was not fair? INEC superintended the election.
Absolutely.
Okay, so is he saying INEC did wrong by getting APC into power? So is he implying that the election was rigged? That's what he's saying. Because if we got what we voted for, nobody's caused. And it's not me making the noise, it's the bell making the noise. Is it the bell making the noise or it's me that is striking the bell?
Okay.
So INEC was compromised. Who compromised INEC? The security agencies were compromised. INEC made his guidelines, made his rules, and subverted all his rules, breached all his guidelines. Why? And our president is telling us it's our money that brought me here. That's what he told a collection of traditional rulers.
Yeah.
It's my money that got me here. What did his money do? His money is a plane, fly, walk, drive. He bought INEC. His money bought the judiciary. His money bought the security agencies.
Which then granted him the presidency.
So it's not INEC. It's the man striking the bell that is making the noise, not the bell. It's not the fault of INEC. It's the man that compromised INEC, bent INEC to his personal will that will hold accountable. INEC is not a cause. INEC in the past ran some almost seamless elections. Sometimes they got it right. Sometimes they got it very wrong. And sometimes they got it moderately right. But in this particular case, it was wholesale betrayal of the trust of Nigerians because somebody struck the bell. Somebody compromised the
analogy, striking the bell. I'll come to you, Dr. Femi. Do you agree with the assertions of Mr. Tochukwu here, or do you have a contrary point of view? I'm sure you've heard everything that he has said. Do you think INEC is the one to blame here, or the piper that is dictating the tune?
You see, we must have to be very careful with my big brother and my good brother, Professor Amadi. Amadi is a man of words, and he knows how to use words in the different definitions and perspective. When he said that INEC, that APC is not cause or the cause, the difference between is not cause and not the cause. Just to say ideal and an ideal. But notwithstanding, I want to disagree with my brother Tochukwu over there in terms that, yes, INEC conducted the election. They are the electoral empire. I would have said earlier that APC is the cause because APC is the government in power. APC influenced everything that happened. I've said in this station before that everything that happened before the election took place. It's not even after. Even the tribunal, I said that our senior advocates and lawyers who went to the tribunal, who went to Supreme Court just to go and show face, just to go for a bazaar, a judicial bazaar, because before proceeding there, we already know what will be the outcome. And many of us then were saying it, and people were giving us names, but nothing will come out of this tribunal, even to the level of Supreme Court, because we already know what have gone behind. We see the manipulations, the placing of individuals to pervert justice. I want to say again, it was not just only PDP or Labour or ABGA or whatever party that we are subverted. It is also APC, because there's some APC right for the people in power. I want to say that categorically without mentioning word. When you use the word cause, that APC is not cause. Everybody have a blame, if there's any blame. APC contributed because the APC, as I said, is the government in power. They control both the judiciary, they control the electoral empire, they control everybody that participated in that election. They influence everybody. And the person who is the candidate of APC influenced everything. We know what happened. We know how people were cajoled, how people were intimidated, how people were degenerated for trying to voice out their plan towards the election. So APC is the cause. But notwithstanding, a man that is called to serve the people, the Bible said when the righteous is on the saddle, when the righteous is on the throne, the people rejoice. Okay? When the man that presided over INEC is not a righteous man. What is righteousness is a right perspective, right attitude, right way of doing, just like Mr. Tochukwu has said it, that they perverted whatever they have already put in place. They circumvented. Therefore, worse than 2015, worse than 2019, this is the worst I've ever seen. things were done because the two actors, the presidential candidate of APC and the sitting president of APC, then collaborated to make sure that Nigerians were battered to submission. Nigeria were battered to submission to, they have no choice. If you ask me, I would tell you that the 2023 election was inconclusive, but because INEC has spoken and the Supreme Court has spoken, we have nothing again to say.
Exactly. So thank you for saying that, because INEC has spoken is the point of view for every election at the end of the day here in Nigeria, at least. Regardless of whether it's a local government or state government or federal, at the end of the day, when INEC gives their mandate and they say these are the final results, everyone has to just accept it because that's what they've said. So if INEC is the culprit here, or if INEC is the culprit here, is APC not complicit, or at least is this administration not complicit in making INEC the culprit? And I say that again from the aspect for which, I ask that rather, I need to clarify that. I ask that from the aspect in which Sam Amadi is saying, what is Atiku or Peter Obi doing about reforming and bringing those electoral reforms that INEC so badly needs to INEC? And then, of course, critics are saying those two people that you brought into the conversation are not in this current administration. They're not actively in politics under this administration right now. So how are they the ones with the capacity to bring these reforms to INEC? Is that not the job of the sitting administration? But let me pose that speculation or that question to you.
The Nigerian law books are teeming with excellent laws, wonderful, marvelous laws. INEC has been reformed already, reformed to a point, going by their laws, going by their guidelines, where they can do an excellent job in superintending a credible and free and fair election. So the problem is not with the law. That's why when Nigerians talk about constitution, endless tinkering with the Nigerian constitution, I find it comical, because our problem in Nigeria is not constitutional, it's attitudinal. We have the laws, we have the guidelines. The thing is that INEC refused to follow its own guidelines. So what amount of reformation can you bring to the system when ultimately the arbiter, the umpire decides to ignore the reforms and the laws? So it's about human beings, it's about human tendencies, it's about refusal to subordinate personal interest to the collective good, which is attitudinal. It's a refusal to do what is right because you have a stake or an interest in doing what is wrong, which is attitudinal. So it's not about reforming the system or the INEC. INEC has wonderful laws. It says you transmit electronically. That's not, but they refuse to transmit. So what does that have to do with the law? It has to do with human beings playing cheap games.
So they have all they need to conduct seamless elections.
Guidelines, laws,
but you're saying
rules.
It's the people that are manipulating the process.
I am not saying, it's obvious. You wrote down, we will transmit electronically. We will do this and do that. And when it was time for election, you refused to follow your own guidelines as determined by you. What does that have to do with the law? It has to do with attitude. So second, the INEC has spoken, and we have no choice but to accept it. But we reserve the rights to our opinion.
Absolutely.
The Supreme Court has spoken, and we have no right to question the verdict of the Supreme Court. But the law says that justice will be done. Not only that justice will be done, but it has to also appear that it was done for the laymen like us who do not understand the arcane of law, the recondite issues in law. I do not know, but I have a common sense. For the gumption of this common man, the layman, make it also appear that justice was done. So INEC has spoken, but we hold our opinions as to the election, which I'm saying, election was rigged. INEC did a terrible job because it was compromised by APC. Also, as Supreme Court spoke, but I can tell you that the Supreme Court was compromised. What am I really saying? The president said it. I bought this position. I bought the presidency. It's my money that brought me here. So the matter is settled.
I'm going to refer that one back to you, Dr. Femi. On this particular subject, when you bring in the subject of Atiku, you bring in the subject of Obi, again, these people are not key officials. They're not key public officers as we speak. And if going by what Mr. Chukuma has just said, Mr. Tochukwu, pardon me.
Ezukama.
Yes.
Tochukwu is my first name, Ezukama is my last name. So yes. Mr. Ezukama.
So going by what he has just said, it's clear, at least to going by his own words to the traditional officers, traditional rulers at the time, that he spent his money and he bought the presidency. Is that not directly or indirectly, if you please, indicting himself by way of saying that he's the president-in-chief and the person who is playing the strings or who is manipulating the strings as regards how INEC plays and how the electoral officials also play and how the results of the election eventually turned out?
Yeah, for me, I'll go straight, but allow me just a second to say that one thing, when my brother was talking about, the laws and passing judgment that we have no, I said it earlier. But let me tell you, one thing is to make a law. Our law, yes, INEC have a wonderful laws that should have guided them to do the right thing in terms of the election that have come and gone. One thing is law, and that thing is the interpretation of law. I can interpret the law to suit me and be in a position to give the final judgment. You cannot argue that. I might give you a wrong interpretation to suit me. If you want to use the word compromise, but I will disagree with you. In the word compromise, you have nothing to show that I compromise. But I know that I compromise, but there's no evidence in law to show that a man who gave a judgment compromised. I interpreted the law based on my understanding and the way I want to interpret the law. Okay? So they interpreted the law based on what they want to say. I want to say that our law is defective. That's a story for another day, and that's why it is being tinkered with. And that is why many of us is saying, no, let's do away with 1999 Constitution and go to bring a proposed law that is not defective, that will thoroughly handled by the people that are called in that direction, the experts in law that will give you the total, package that will give us not a lopsided, federation. But outside that, your question, I want to put it to you and I want to say that there's nowhere Mr. President said that he bought the 2023 election with money. He didn't say that. It's misunderstanding. He was misquoted. I'm not his essay on media or whatsoever. But what he simply said in the right perspective, what he simply said, that I sponsored myself. I have no godfather. So nobody will dictate to me. So people can, I'm not his fan. I'm not trying to speak for him, but I want to speak the way it's supposed to be. He never indicted himself. He said that I personally sponsored myself. I used my money to sponsor myself in this election. Therefore, I have no godfather that will dictate to me and push me to the left or to the right. That is a simple statement Mr. President made before these traditional rulers. He never said he bought it, unless you can show me where he said, I bought this. He never said, I bought it. He never indicted himself. Never said, I bought it, I bought the position, I bought the seat, I bought the presidency. No, he never said that. He simply, and he can, in any way you want to bring it to the law court, it can be interpreted to suit what he said. He never said, I bought it. He never indicted himself. Okay, what he said, that I sponsored myself. I have no godfather. Mr. Tochukwu did not give me 1 billion naira for this election. Therefore, he cannot dictate to me. I will do it based on what I know how to do, based on the way I feel is the best way to go about governance. Thank you.
Okay, but that said, Dr. Femi, that said, is that there's a point to INEC now, because based on what we've come to some sort of agreement on this conversation, that of course INEC has a role to play, and they did they had a big role to play, not just have, but they had a big role to play in how this administration came into power and the strings that were pulled and how it all played out at the end of the day. Whether or not we believe that happened, regardless of what the Supreme Court says, this is the popular view out there. But if INEC has done this already, this administration is in power already, but this administration has also made some errors, at least that's what people believe, because of the economic policies and the resultant economic downturn that the country is currently going through. So is it INEC that is still to blame for that, or the people who came into power by way of INEC and are now the leadership of this country? I want you to quickly respond to that while I return back to my in-house guest.
Somebody can say, oh, we push him into the thank God they said all things work together for good. Sometimes something can work for good. If I make a mistake in declaring the wrong person, and the person that was declared wrongly came and surprised everybody and proved everybody wrong, although I am declared a winner, I'm not the actual winner, but I am implementing a very good policy. So INEC cannot be blamed. The people who are blamed are the people who are saddling, are people who are in a position to give a good governance. These are the people that blame for it. INEC have nothing to. I have nothing to say. No blame can be given to blame on this INEC on this aspect. This is the people who are in position to handle the economy, to take care of what is Nigerians are giving unto them, wrongly or rightly. These are the people to be blamed. This administration should be blamed for anything that went to go wrong during the administration, not INEC now. Supposing after the election, the INEC man was changed, or no, INEC cannot be blamed for this.
All right, so I want you to respond to that, because we started this conversation from the point of Sam Amadi saying that APC is not the problem or they're not the curse, but INEC is. And going by what Dr. Femi has just said, INEC may have brought them into power, but they're the ones who are currently steering the ship. So they're the ones to blame at the end of the day.
No, I want to respond to what he said. I once wrote an article and I titled it, "The Moral Blemish of Tinubu's Presidency." He was saying that if INEC wrongfully certifies someone in office, the president, the governor, and if the person does a good job, then nobody is to be blamed because the person did a good job. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I said, let us agree.
Yes.
You know, we have said that Supreme Court has spoken and they have spoken. That they have spoken does not mean their judgment cannot be reviewed. That Supreme Court has spoken does not mean they can be wrong.
But when the Supreme Court, pardon me, Dr. Femi, the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. And when the Supreme Court says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is your president, is that something we should still be debating?
No, we're not debating about that. But that they have pronounced him the president does not mean they are morally sound. That don't mean that we're done on righteous premise. No.
So you're not talking about legally and how the process went. You're talking about morally.
No, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. But what we're trying to say, that I'm not saying that what INEC declaring him or certifying him as the president, that they did it well. But what I'm trying to separate from that is that INEC is not the people managing the economy now. INEC is not the people running the affairs of this country now. The people, the INEC personnel and the INEC actors are different people waiting to either wreak another havoc or to correct themselves. Okay? The people we should be blaming now, looking up to now, are the people who are in the place of governance, who are the governors or House of Rep or the senators or local government chairman or whatsoever House of Assembly. They are the people that we should hold responsible for whatever that might have gone wrong now. I'm not giving them, I'm not saying there's no moral burden surrounding the election that have just come and gone. That's not what I'm trying to say. And at the same time, because INEC has spoken or because Supreme Court has spoken, that everything I've said is right. No, we are only binded by the law that does not favor us, period.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you now. You wanted to respond to that.
The point is that INEC bungled up the whole process because there was a pipe who was, how did they say, he who plays the piper dictator. There was a piper, there was a script already written. They were acting a script. But the Supreme Court has spoken, INEC has spoken, and the country has to move on. But our dilemma is that in moving on, we are confronted with one of the most economic hardship Nigeria has known. So if the Tinubu administration has done well with the economy and the average Nigerian is comfortable, the economy is booming, there's an enabling environment for business to thrive, people can eat 3 square meals a day, it would have been the anger or bitterness against the events of the past would have been ameliorated. But then it happens that the issue, there's so much hardship. People are unhappy. If you look at footages of the last protest, you hear people shouting, the suffering is too much. We are tired. Yes. Let the military take over. People are tired, frustrated, exasperated. So that's the thing. And it's the fault of the administration.
The APC.
APC, yeah. Not the political party, the Tinubu administration.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you are now to serve us. Do your job well. Prove your mettle, be effective. You have failed in this respect, and there's starvation in the country. And shamelessly, the presidency, the administration, the governors talk about palliatives. I was a kid in Biafra, and they talk about palliatives evoke very painful memories in me, because it is in war-torn countries. That's where you look for food relief, that's palliatives.
Absolutely.
So why would a country not at war be talking about palliatives as though it's normal? Something has gone horrifyingly wrong with the system. And that's the issue the government needs to address. Not telling you about we are bringing 20 tons, trailer tons of rice for people to share amongst themselves. That's demoralizing. That's shameful, you know. So the fundamental issue is get the economy moving, create the enabling environment for business to thrive, for people to live their lives.
Thank you. Talking about the APC and the performance of the administration, a chieftain of the APC, whose name is Abdul Hakim Adegoke Alauje, has said that the current economic hardship will not stop President Bola Tinubu's victory in 2027. Now, he stated this yesterday when he appealed to Nigerians to be patient with the president over the current socioeconomic hardship in the country, saying that this situation will soon improve. Now, he said, and I read, Nigeria's current pains are temporary, and with collective support and patience, the nation is on the path to a brighter future under President Tinubu's leadership. He added, I can boldly predict that Nigerians would eventually ask Tinubu to continue as president beyond 2027, because this hardship is temporary. Some of us who are not happy with his leadership style as president will definitely join us to voluntarily campaign for his re-election in 2027. Now, I'll come back to you, Dr. Femi, on this one. Now, we are here dissecting this conversation, and both you and Mr. Izekama have said that this particular administration has done a sham job, if you please, of economic policies particularly, and how that has affected the economy. And people are suffering, people are starving, people are hungry, and there's so much insecurity in the land. It gets worse with every day that passes. And this is an Apc Chieftain, Abdul Hakim Alauje, who's saying that this hardship, the economic hardship is what he's referring to specifically, that he's saying it's temporary. And some of these people who are not happy with his leadership style and economic policies will be the ones singing a different tune come 2027. Now, is this something that you even see happen? And is this something that, coming from an Apc chieftain, do you think it's out of touch with the current realities in Nigeria as we speak?
It's possible. Ask me, why did I say so? Let's start from a political history and the history of this country. From 1978 to 1980, 81, Nigerians because they have been used to windfall, Udoji Award, etc. and etc. from go on until it get to that time. Nigerians have never seen such suffering. I'm not trying to tell you that the military regime, immediately after the Civil War, is better than the civilian regime. Economically and otherwise, it's 100% better. Cannot compare with anything. Especially people like you who are very young that time, or who are not yet been born. We who have been born, we tell you from 1970 to 1978, when the civilians come over, the 79 or 78 down to 1970 was far better. Therefore, when Nigeria experienced what Shagari administration, they were shouting just like the equivalent to being power that is being here today by our people. Therefore, they said that they are going to, Shagari will not win again. They will never allow Shagari to come over. People were looking up to NPP and UPN. UPN by Bafemi Awolowo and the NPP by Nnamdi Azikiwe. But they came again with landslide. What do they do? They discovered that maybe we might lose this place, we might lose this place. They went on what they call Concordia with the NPP. I remember my big uncle that time came on the national television, NTN, and used the word Accord Concordia. They entered Accord with NPN, and that's why they were able to produce a Speaker of the House, Umezuoke, and etc. and etc. Therefore, and they won again before the ministry struck. The same thing happened in 2014, 2015, when the ACN or ACP discovered that they might not be able to catch what they were looking for. They might not win again. But what do you call it, CPC and etc. They come to PDP, and they demonize PDP. They degenerate them. They sow a lot of seed of discord, and they deceive Nigerians. They manipulated Nigerians, and Nigerians won election. They won election under the platform of APC and Buhari emerged, who is the worst president, worst head of state, worst president I've ever seen in the history of Africa. Of Nigeria. He is the worst. I have no apology to say that, And they come into power. You see, Nigerians, many people from PDP, people from ABGA, people from SDP, people from AD campaign for for the cent, Nigerian cent, Buhari. They campaign for him that is going to turn things around. So 2027, something like that can happen. This man can put one policy. He can do something. I know the man talking with you there is an Igbo man. He can come and say he's releasing Nnamdi Kanu. I can say he's giving them IG of police. He can say he's giving them one state. He can say this and that. The entire Southeast will vote Tinubu and begin to clap for him. He can be able to do it. Yesterday, on Sunday, I attended a meeting at Churere. I bought fuel, 560 from NNPC Lawansin bus stop. But here in Lekki, here where I'm sitting, you can't even see fuel. Some places you see they will tell you 900 naira. Black market is saying 1,000 something. So he can say today, I have decided to make fuel. Fuel will now be 350 naira. I don't care whatever. Rice will become, it will not be 100,000 naira. Rice will now become 50,000 naira a bag. Something can happen in Nigeria will vote him. So it is possible that he can win or he can rig himself to power. So it's two options. It's possible. It is possible.
I'm going to take a leaf from your book now, from your page or from your book. I'm not sure what that phrase is at the moment. Going by what you've just said, so you talked about a merger, that there's a possibility that with a political merger, he could come back into power. You talked about bringing out about a new economic policy, something that will favor Nigerians or reverse something that he has already done to favor Nigerians, and that would propel them to vote for him. But if these are things that can be done, why are they not things that are already being done, particularly the economic aspect? Because again, this is economic hardship we're talking about specifically. So if it's something that you can do prior to an election so that you can regain power, why is it not something you can do in the middle of your administration when people are complaining of this same hardship? I'm responding to you, but I'm directing that as a question as well to you.
Let me talk about the man that spoke and said the president will win in 2027. Okay?
And even beyond.
Okay, and beyond, okay. The thing is that I lack prophetic powers. Therefore, I cannot prophesize the future. I don't know what will happen in future.
Okay.
The only way we can, or I can, talk about the future is by extrapolation. Based on what is happening now, going by that trend, what do we expect for the future?
All right, let's talk about that.
So they keep talking about patience. But the actions of the president, his balance and his body language portrays a man who is in office to make money, to have fun, and that is completely insensitive to the compounding problems of Nigerians. We are seeing the kind of profligacy never known in Nigerian history. No Nigerian president ever had a yacht. There's now a presidential yacht. Nigeria, the president just bought a car. I don't want to call it a car because it goes beyond a car. At a certain point, food becomes cuisine, house becomes palace. So this is beyond a car. I don't know what to call it, but for lack of words, let me call it a car that is 5 million naira short of 1 billion. No Nigerian president ever drove such a car. And then you are augmenting the presidential fleet, buying new, more advanced jets. You're not selling off the older ones if they're having issues. You're just adding to the fleet. We've never known the kind of the money that is being spent on frivolous things. So the president is financially reckless. This lady called it fiscal rascality. The president is showing, I don't care. The president is saying, according to him, I have no godfather. Nobody brought me here.
Yes.
Or according to the traditional ruler, I bought this position. This is my money that bought this position for me. But whichever one it is not a responsible, sensitive statement. There's some streak of recklessness to that kind of statement. So based on what the president is acting, and some family members, we now have the first daughter. The son is the de facto vice president, and so on and so forth. You question, is this man with this kind of policies, insensitive, anti-people policies, this kind of extravagance and financial dishonesty and corruption that marks his administration? Is he the kind of a man that will improve the economy on the long run? My answer is no.
But he's been talking, at least his team has been talking countlessly and over again as regards economic policies that he's putting in the works.
What are we seeing? We don't expect magic in 1 year, but a child that will walk before 1 year is beginning to attempt to stand up. He's beginning to hold something and walk. That's an indication that this kid will walk in future.
But this is the same thing that Alauja is saying, that the hardship is temporary. So maybe the child is still learning to work now in the defense of the administration.
There must have been some indications. You removed 12 subsidy. Now you are paying 12 subsidy in the amount never paid before. And the prices of fuel is spiking higher and higher. So there's the paradox. Things are not adding up. And in the final analysis, we are talking about the president's businesses, oil business in Malta. And these days, Nigeria is importing more and more from Malta. And subsidy is paying to this increased import from Malta. So it's a man that is showing us, I am here to have fun. I am here to enjoy myself. I do not care. There was a protest in the country. Before the protest, we expected the president to talk, assuage the fears of the people, mollify the discontent of the people. He did not speak. After the protest, he spoke and did not address the demands of the protesters. So I don't see things changing in future. If things are to change, we would have started seeing some semblance, some preliminary
of the change to come.
But things are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And the president, from his behavior, is showing, I do not care. So if the president will win election in 2027, which is very likely, it is likely because our president is a man that makes friends, okay? He will, and he's a president that believes that money can buy people. So he will compromise a lot of the opposition financially. He will sweet talk a lot of the opposition financially. Already this administration is inciting infighting in other political parties. So by 2027, a lot of the opposition must have been compromised. A lot of the opposition parties will be in disarray. So based on some gimmick, some sophistry.
It might just be the perfect platform to win the presidency
but
a
not
second
that
time.
things will improve and that Nigerians on their own vote for him to be their leader in the next election. What was your question? Because I digressed. I didn't answer your question.
I was asking specifically with regards to the 2027. Well, you have answered the question
okay.
Indirectly, actually.
Yes.
So I'll come to you now, and I will take your final thoughts on this because we're out of time. Alaoja is appealing for peace and collective support for the president. We talked about INEC earlier and bringing this administration into power. And the popular view, again, and I repeat this, is that the presidency was not the people's choice. The current presidency was not the people's choice. Now, do you think one of the reasons that Nigerians are so impatient with the president is because of the belief that they did not actually vote him in, and that he made this presidency happen by all these different methods in which we've spoken about already, and that that's the reason why they would not, pardon me, be patient with him? Or is it just the flaw? Is it just the flaws of the economic policies that's the actual problem?
If you know this country, if you know the people, if you know Nigerians, one, I'm sorry, I'm not insulting my fellow Nigerians. One, they have short memory, and many Nigerians are gullible. I want to let you know that they are not angry with, the disaffection is not because of how he emerged as the president. It is because of the economic hardship. I'm telling the truth. If the things are moving in the direction they expected, which many people, myself personally, knowing that people like us were a little bit not all that close to the President Commander-in-Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the way he speaks with passion and commitment to the betterment of Nigeria and Nigerians, and what things he will do. If I am the president, I will do that, I will do that, I will do that. Many of us who are in a little bit in sympathy with him, not before the election, after the election. It's okay, let us allow him to go. We know that this man is a Democrat. This man is a pan-Nigerian. This man is interested, because the man who have been preaching, invest in Nigeria. Even if I stole Nigerian money, invest it in Nigeria. I have nothing else, etc., and etc., and etc. So many of us, okay, INEC has spoken, Supreme Court has spoken, he's there, they're not okay. Let us support him. Let's see what they can do. If the economy is doing well, I want to tell you, the average Nigerian will give him a support. The average Nigerian will be happy. The average of Nigeria will sing. After all, Nigeria, whenever there's a coup d'etat, you see them jump to the street to sing and welcome the army.
There's an aspect to which is linked to the emergence of APC and this administration, and that's where a lot of people put that blame on. But the realities, of course, again, as I said, speak differently concerning what Abdul Hakim Alaoja has said. But of course, time will tell if indeed, come 2027, Nigerians will forget, going by what you said, that they have bad memory and short-term memory, that they'll forget all the developments, and maybe if by some gimmick, in Mr. Ezekama's words, there's an economic change, then, of course, we would now see if Nigerians will indeed vote him into power. But thank you very much, Dr. Femi, for joining us this evening. And thank you to you, Mr. Tochukwu Ezekama, for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Kindly follow us across all our social media platforms at VOP TV Live. And remember to always watch this station. My name is Somto Ajamma. The Political Voice continues tomorrow. Good evening.